In this episode, I'm going to show you how I went from this to this. G'day everybody, welcome back to this week's episode. It's glad to have you all here. If you're new here, I'm teaching everything photography on this channel, so if you like that sort of content, please consider subscribing. Hit the little notification bell so you don't miss the weekly uploads. Now just a quick thing before I start, I want to give a big shout out to KALINDA and also want to give a shout out to Lucky Lane, and I'm going to put their Instagrams and their websites up the top here. Go check those guys out. This is a job I did a while ago for Lucky Lane. She makes her own clothing for dance and she wanted me to take the photos for her website, and KALINDA was one of the models, and she's been kind enough for me to use her image to show you guys examples on how I edit my portrait photos. So thank you KALINDA for that. Now with all that out of the way, we're going to jump straight into Photoshop and I'm going to show you my sort of start to finish process, and I'm going to try and keep it under 15 minutes. Alright, let's go. Okay, so now I've opened up this image. It's a RAW file, so it's popped up in Camera Raw. So what I'm going to do here first of all is I'm going to go to this optics panel. I'm going to go to remove chromatic aberrations, and I'm going to use profile corrections. That just takes the distortion out of the lens that you've used. The next thing I'm going to do is go up to basic, and I just want to sort of bring all the information out. So I want to basically bring the highlights down a little bit. I want to bring the shadows up, and I want to press Alt, hold Alt, slide this whites up a little bit, hold the Alt, slide the blacks down, and push the contrast a little bit. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do for that RAW file just for now. And I'm just going to press open. Okay, so now once you're in Photoshop and you've got your document open, you're going to unlock the layer. I'm going to press Ctrl J to duplicate the layer. Turn the background layer off. I'm going to refer back to that later so we can see the before and after. You should probably do this as well. I always duplicate the layer for a bit of a safety. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name this layer blemishes. Okay, so I'm going to select that layer with a little white box around it. I'm going to get the spot healing brush. I'm going to zoom in, and looks like KALINDA's got some pretty good skin. There's not many blemishes. Thanks KALINDA for that. Make my job easy. So there's a couple little spots here. Just going to clean them up. Just press once, pretty much takes care of it. Make the brush a little bit smaller. You get these, especially on a lot of portraits of ladies or girls, you get flyaway hairs. Just take care of that. Just go over it a couple of times till it disappears. There's another one here. Might take you a few goes. Have a quick look around. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so that's blemishes sorted out. Okay, the next thing I want to do is, now we've done the blemishes, I want to go through and see if there's any other things that are affecting the image, and this can be a little bit offensive to some people, so I've checked with KALINDA already and she's happy for me to edit her photo, and before you even view this episode, I'm going to make sure that she's happy with this episode before you guys see it, to make sure that if there's something that she doesn't want me to put on the video, it's not going to offend her. So please keep that in mind. Now what I'm talking about when I'm talking about not offending someone is I'm going to go into the liquify tool and I'm going to adjust certain things. If there's little imperfections on somebody's body or something and you want to push or pull pixels and make the lines of their stomach straighter and things like that, then please just check with the model first, because some people, you know, like the way they look, so just be super careful. Okay, so I'm going to go to filter, liquify. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, and the area I want to work on to start with is just where Kalinda's been sitting down, and she's not fat, she's really fit, she's into her fitness and stuff. The fact of the matter is that when people sit down, sometimes our stomach goes a little bit over our pants, especially when you're just wearing dance clothes. So what I want to do here with the liquify tool is just get a decent sized brush. I'm just going to push in a little bit. You don't want to go overboard with these adjustments, guys. You don't want to start making a false reality. Just subtle adjustments, guys, just subtle. Before we leave the liquify tool, there's another thing I like to do with girls' hair. It doesn't always have to be done, and Kalinda's hair looks pretty good here, so I probably don't need to touch it much, but I'm going to show you guys what I think makes this look a little bit better. And I know a lot of girls like to have a full head of hair, so the liquify tool, you can do that. So I'm just going to increase the brush size quite a bit, and you can see here maybe her hair is just a little bit flat, so I can just grab, I can pull this hair out a little bit so it looks a little bit fuller. I'm just going to go pretty much all the way around, and you want to use quite a big brush for this. You don't want to, because you're pushing and pulling the edge of the hair with the background, so if you start squishing it too much, you might notice on the background. So just make sure you get quite a decent brush, maybe even zoom out with quite a big brush, and just like I said, just everything with liquify, just do it slowly. Don't go too crazy. Well, you can go crazy, but just go crazy slow, not crazy fast. Alright, and there's one more thing in the liquify tool before we leave. This is a crazy tool, by the way, especially for portraits, and I think that's what I was saying to you before. If you don't be careful and you start adjusting the way someone looks, they might be offended. So just keep that in mind. You know, this is actually somebody. This isn't a Kim Kardashian. Sorry for all the Kim Kardashian fans out there, but she's not a real person. Now, the reason why I say liquify is a crazy tool because they've got all these facial feature things. You can change on eyes and mouth and nose. Now, the same thing as I keep on preaching on about, liquify, do small adjustments. So I'm gonna go on this mouth, and I'm gonna go to the upper lip, and I'm just gonna give it, I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna push the slider all the way to the end just so you can see what it's doing. You can see here, upper lip, you can push. So it was at 0, so I'm gonna just push it maybe 49%. Lower lip, I'm gonna leave that, but you can push it bigger and smaller. It looks kind of crazy. That's what I said, just be careful because you can offend somebody if you edit your whole photo so someone looks like Kim Kardashian and you send it to them, they might be a bit upset. Mouth width, there's all sorts of things. There's smile. If someone is not smiling, you can give them a little bit of a smile. But I'm happy the way this is, so I'm gonna press OK. You turn it off from before, and then after, you can see how the full head of hair has really made, I think, a bit of a difference. It kind of pushes your focus more towards Kalinda. The next thing I want to do now is I'm gonna go back to filter, and I'm gonna go to camera raw filter again. Now this time I'm not interested in the basic edits. This time I'm interested in these things on the side. So I'm gonna do radial filters, and basically this, you can just draw a circle, an oval, whatever shape you want, and I'm just gonna place it there, and I'm gonna press the invert, and then I'm gonna bring the outside exposure down a little bit, because remember, I'm trying to draw the viewers into the photo. I don't want their eyes going off the page with, you know, if there's all sorts of things on the top here, see this sparkly wall in the background, that's a little bit distracting because it's too bright. So I'm trying to bring the exposure of that down, but not Kalinda. So We can make multiple of these. We can go right click and we can go duplicate. We can make another one, except this time I want to double click and I want to not invert it, and then I want to make her face a little bit brighter, and I want to bring that over her face. And another thing I want to do is, now I'm also going to go to the gradient filter, which is a graduated filter. It's like a gradient, but it's for an exposure and all sorts of other effects. So I'm going to drag one from the bottom up, and I'm going to bring the exposure down at the bottom half of the image a little bit. And I'm going to do the same on the top. I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to bring down the exposure of that on the top a little bit. Now because the gradient is over KALINDA's face at the moment, I don't want to darken down her face. So at the bottom here there is a range mask. So you can click on here. When I go to the range mask, I'm going to go to the luminance because that's the brightness. I'm going to really turn the exposure down just so you can see. Now if I move, you can see now that darkness is affecting her hair. We don't want that, so we want to just bring that so it's just not going onto her hair on this slider here. And this is, you know, this is where the slider comes into play. So we want to just darken down those bright areas on the image. And I'm pretty happy with that. So let's press OK. Now that you can see from before and after, if I just toggle this on and off, before, when you're looking at this, it's very bright in that top corner and it's a little bit distracting. So by turning the brightness down or adjusting certain areas of these photos, or any photo in that matter, you're bringing your attention to the specific point of interest in the photo. Obviously, KALINDA is the point of interest because this is a portrait. So we don't want people looking up the top corner and getting, oh, what are those sparkly things, you know, at the back wall there. Even though it looks cool, we don't want the viewer to be distracted. One of the last things I'm probably going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to create a curves layer on top of that. I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to clip that mask to this layer. And then when we go back into the curves, it's going to affect the whole image at the moment, but I'll show you in a second what I'm planning on doing. So I want to brighten up KALINDA's eyes a little bit, just so it really gives that punch on, you know, she's looking back at the camera. So I'm going to bring this slider here, and don't even look at the rest of the image, just look at the whites in her eyes at the moment from what it was. Okay, and even if you go a little bit too far, it doesn't matter. Let's just press OK with that. Now, with layer masks, it already has one on it, and white reveals and black conceals. So whatever's on this layer, if there's a layer mask next to it, if it's a white layer mask, you're going to see the exact effect of that layer, and if it's a black layer mask, it's going to hide that effect. Now the beauty with layer masks, if it's a layer mask on any effect or any layer, you can just draw with white or draw with black, and it's going to either reveal or conceal the effect. So what I want to do now is, obviously this, I don't want to brighten the whole image, this was just for the eyes. So this is white at the moment, so I want to invert that. So I want to go Control I to invert. Now we have a black layer mask. Now when we paint, we can go to the brush tool, or we can just press B, and we can also toggle this white and black with the X, or you can just press this little arrow, you can press X, it'll toggle that. Now we want to paint with white because we have a black layer mask, and we want to make sure that black layer mask is selected. We want to go to the brushes, and we want just a 0 hardness, and whatever size, doesn't really matter at this point. And the flow and opacity, I like to keep this reasonably low because you can paint in the effect bit by bit. You don't have to one swipe and it's 100%. So let's zoom in. Zoom in quite far, probably not that far. Zoom into KALINDA's eyes. And let's just start painting on the whites and even just over her eye, just a little bit at a time. So I'm only painting 19% opacity at the moment. So let's just paint a little bit over her eyes. You toggle that on and off. It doesn't make much of a difference, but it will make a little bit of difference. You gotta remember, guys, the secret to good looking images and good portraits and even just good landscapes is just subtleties, you know. If it's way overdone, if someone's just grabbed the clarity slider and just slid that thing so the clouds look unrealistic, or in this case, if you just brighten up somebody's eyes or somebody's teeth, they don't look like that in real life. You don't want to go too far with anything. You just want subtlety, 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 subtlety. That's all I'm planning on doing here. So, if you painted too much on that effect, you can always go to the opacity of the whole effect on this layer and you can drag that slider back and forward. So if you painted it too much but you are happy, just went a little bit overboard, you can maybe grab the slider and just bring it back down a little bit. And the last thing I want to show you guys is dodging and burning, which is, I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. I'm going to go Control, Alt, Shift and E. That's going to merge all those effects and stamp it as one. Now all those effects we put on it, that's now stuck on one layer. Now let's go Control J. I'm going to rename this, burn, this top layer, dodge. Now I'm going to go click on the burn layer. Obviously if it's burn means it's dark, it's been burnt. You want to bring these down so it looks like everything's dark. And with the layer mask, let's invert it so that effect is hidden. That's going to make no sense, but just bear with me. Same with this one, curves adjustment. This time, dodge. Don't ask me why it says dodge, that just means brighten up the highlights. Okay, so let's invert the mask as well on that one. And we also need to clip. The clip means it's going to clip that effect just to that layer. Now, let's just turn these two top layers off. I'm working. Now with this top one, we can paint white again, and we can, I think the girls will probably like this one quite a lot, because you can sort of paint in like you would paint in on your makeup. You can paint in, make sure your opacity and flow is a little bit low again, soft brush, and you can just paint in so you can have brighter areas on your whatever part of your face where the highlights are on the image. Just pretty much, you want to make sure you're paying attention to the direction of the light. So the light's coming in kind of straight and on this side of KALINDA. So if I just turn this on and off, you can kind of see what I'm doing. Bringing exposure to her in certain areas. It's not just one slider. This is the difference between sort of a high-end portrait and just a, just a standard, quick overlay of something where someone's just dragged a few sliders and it's just a global, more of a global edit. Okay, so that's a dodge on the burn. We're going to do the exact same, and the burn just means you're going to bring the shadow areas, you're going to make them more of a shadow. So let's just say around the nose, we can make them more of a shadow, and this is going to give your image quite a 3D effect. It's going to really make the person pop, and it's going to make them stand out. A little bit under the chin there. I'm not doing this 100%, guys. This is trying to keep this video as low as possible, and I'm sure I've already failed at the 15-minute thing. I don't think it's just beyond me on how people can make videos less than 15 minutes when I'm trying to ram all this information in. Okay, so now let's just see what that effect did. Just brought a little bit of light to her face, a little bit of highlights, and like I said, you can go nuts with this. This is a tutorial, so if I was doing this for a client, I would spend a crazy amount of time, especially if this was like the winning photo or something and this was going to be on a magazine or something, or even if it's just your work that you're posting on Instagram. That could be the difference between you getting 1,000 likes or if it just got a couple of likes, you know. People don't realize it subconsciously, but if they see a good image, they're gonna like it. So this is what we started with, and this is what we ended up with. Started off with a really good base, and as you can see, a few more edits and you can really start to punch in and make those images really come to life. Okay, that's it for me, guys, today. I'm pretty sure I failed on the 15-minute thing again. It's literally impossible. So if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Hit the little notification bell so you don't miss the weekly uploads. Thanks again to KALINDA for letting me use this photo, and go check out Lucky Lane for her clothes she makes. She does awesome dance clothes and stuff. She makes even some of the stuff by hand, so good job on that, and really enjoyed working with you guys. And that's where I'm gonna leave it, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.